Kuso duo! Welcome to the second language lesson in Somali for beginners. Today we're going to talk about pronunciation. A lot of people have been asking to just review the basics in pronunciation in Somali. There's a few words and phrases in their alphabet that sound slightly different than in the English alphabet. So we're just going to review a couple of those today. Starting with the first one, G. Sometimes the G can sound more like a G sound than J. Sometimes we hear in English. So G. An example of that would be guleso. That means to win or to succeed in something. So G can be more of that G sound in Somali. Moving on to the X, it's not at all like in English. When you see an X, imagine H. Say it like a H sound instead of K. So an example of this would be hid, that means to close, or hage. So that's X-A-G-G-E for hage, that means wear, and then hid means close. So those are two examples of the X should sound like an H. On to the R's, because of the Italians that influence the Somali language, and therefore they roll that R. So when you see an R, especially a double R, it means that you would roll the R. If it's just a singular R, typically it's not rolled. One very common phrase that we use today is barasho wanagsin. So it's B-A-R-R-A-S-H-O. So barasho has a double R. Again, you're going to try to roll your R's there. If you can find any other examples of double R in the Somali language, let me know. Moving on to DH. This sound is very common in Somali, and it sounds like duh. Kind of coming from the back of the throat, duh. So an example of that would be a common phrase we use, dulka. So du, dulka for the D. The C sound, as many of us know, the C, typically when you see it in a word, you don't pronounce the C, but it can be deceiving. Sometimes the C can actually make an A sound, and it can be like a glottal stop. So like when we say maga'a, what is your name? That's with a C in the middle of it. So it's kind of like a stop, and then we end with the A at the end of maga'a, excuse me. For the KH sound, this one can be like a ka sound, like K-H-A-H, ka. An example of this would be kamis, and that means Thursday. Kamis. And the last one, I think the most difficult in the Somali language to pronounce, is the Q. I was once told that imagine trying to put a G and a Q together, and then pretend like you're balancing a marble in the back of your throat, and that's the sound that you should get when you say Q. So it sounds like ka, ka, ka. An example of that is qalin, that means pen, qalin, or qor, that means to write. So there's a couple examples of different pronunciation in Somali. Hope that's helpful to you all.